to like start a project, when you want to work on something, what are those things that you put into place? What are those things you do that you think you should?
Sorry, Veloci, I didn't get the last thing you said.
Okay, can you hear me very well now?
Yes.
Okay, so I said like when you're about to like work on a project, like when you want to do something that will go to the general public, what are those things you put into consideration? So you're talking about products, process, and people.
Oh yeah, yeah, that. So when mostly if you've been to a lot of boot camps and design schools and taking courses, you go through the whole normal design process, empathize, define, ideate, and all, right?
People like,
It's easy.
wow,
That part is the easier
can you hear
part.
me, Miss Ifunaya? Please, if you can hear me.
Yes, Bulutu, I can hear you. Can you
Sorry,
hear
can you
me?
come again? I think I lost you for a moment.
Okay.
Okay, nice. Yes, I can. I can.
Okay. So, like I said, that part is the easier part. The learning in school is easier. Doing in school is easier. But when you come into real world, there's a whole lot that you're going to face. There's a whole lot you're going to be dealing with, stemming from stakeholders, variety of stakeholders, compliance, regulators, business needs, goals. In design school or courses, you're taught to focus on the user, empathize with the user. Uh, in the real world, it's not entirely possible to just focus on the user. You have to focus on all the available stakeholders, like I said earlier, the business needs and the goals, profit, because they're in business to make money. You're also going to focus on technological constraints, resource constraints as well, timing. You're going to need to look at things like regulations, regulators, compliance, security as well. So when about to start a project, usually there's a brainstorming session, and that usually involves you being told what they want you to do. But as a designer that has, if you've been designing for years, you know that that won't let you, that won't give you or help you solve problems for both your company and the user as well. So you want to ask follow-up questions. If you've heard of in hearts, it's a
Yeah.
term that would help you with brainstorming. So when you start asking, when you use those individual hearts, you could ask very important questions. I'm going to tell a story of an application that I worked on, one application for an African
Okay.
subsidiary. And what I was asked was, we just need you to redesign this because XYZ, just redesign. And I'm like, okay, now we are redesigning it. What are the problems we can solve? Who are the end users? Who are the back office users? What different kinds of users do we have here? Right. Now, back to what you were taught in school. You make user story documents, try to create user stories, create user personas, understand what their major pain points are. But all that you're doing for yourself. So you're literally compressing all that and doing it really quickly so that you can come up with more questions and find out new ways to help them solve those problems. And when you've done that, you want to also carry all your stakeholders along because, like I said, you're dealing with security experts, product owners, product managers, business. You're dealing with regulators as well. You're even dealing with the tech team who would also have technical constraints. So you want to also bring all of them up to speed on every part of your discovery. Now, that would involve a lot of mails and meetings and back and forth with your business analysts and your product manager. But in the long run, it's saving you one problem, the problem of doing repetitive work where you're done with the solution, and then they remember, oh, we need this, and then you have to go back and design for it, and you're done again, and then you're doing that back and forth. Time is wasting, resources being wasted, and obviously you have other projects to work on. So the next thing after that would be to discuss with your technical team. That's after you're done with the whole passing the message across, carry them along in all process. You're going to now want to find out what is technically feasible, right? What can be implemented and what is allowed to be implemented. Like you said, I work in the finance industry where people's money, so there's a lot of security concerns, there's a lot of regulatory concerns, there's a lot of compliance concerns as well. So you want to factor in all those. So it's not the regular dive in and have a very good time designing your stuff. You're going to have constraints that you should be able to understand and know how to work with. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yes, explicitly. In fact, you've just like you touched all the three P's we're looking at today: the people, you put it into consideration, the process, right, and then the end product. In fact, should we just call the session like we should just call it a session because you've just you've just explicitly explained what we are even here to do, to be honest. And I hope we have PDs here, we have product designers here that are taking notes so that you'll be a very great product designer like Miss Ifunaya. Thank you very much for um, a concise explanation. So I'd like to ask, what is the biggest challenge you faced, like you faced as a product designer, and how did you overcome it? Did
Okay,
you hear me?
so
Okay.
yes, I heard you.
Okay, nice.
Is it product or, as in personal or on the job? So there are different parts. Hello, Boluwatife, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Please go on.
Okay, so I was asking which area is the question towards personal problems, like personal challenges as a designer, or while working as a designer.
I think both personal problems as a product designer, and then the ones that you encounter whenever you're like working on a project, and like how did you overcome them?
Okay. So one problem I had earlier when I started out was I had this developer that would always, when I do something, he'll ask why. I mean, it's your job to. Then I used to be very upset. It's your job to convert my work. Like, yeah, you're questioning me
Yeah.
why? Why did I do this? Why did I do that?
Good.
So the thing is, he asks those questions not to irritate me or make me
Okay.
upset, but to understand why he's doing what he's doing, and that's very important. Now, when I'm trying to work on a new feature or a new product, I usually do the whole what, why, and how. You want to know what the problem is and why it's a problem. You also want to know why you need to solve that problem and why you're solving it in that way. And usually, when he asks this why, I usually go home, come back the next day with an answer. That's after so much brainstorming and looking for documents to back up my answers. I just know that this is good design, but I can't explain to someone else why it is. And when I realized I had to do that over and over again, I started paying attention to the why. You see, when you're in these meetings trying to communicate your ideas to stakeholders or why you're not going with the exact solution they recommended, you want to make them understand that this is useful, this is why you would do it this way, and this is why we are not going exactly the way you wanted to. For me, making my stakeholders understand the why has been one of the most challenging things for me, because then I had to go and develop soft skills, because then you need to know how to communicate, listen properly, negotiate as well. And then I also had to go and study more. Why would I pick this use case over this use case? So that's the only prayer that gets answered. Then you realize that it's not as straightforward as you thought it would be. Right. So what my motivation was from the fact that I was having to do a lot of poorly designed applications, to also realizing that if you design properly, you can change people's lives. Take Nigeria, for instance. Very stressful. Very, very stressful. The last thing you want to do is add to that stress, right? You want to make sure that if that stressed person has to use your application, you won't be adding to their stress. They'll be able to use it easily and move on with their lives. So, seeing all that, how design could affect both my life, my state of mind, and the next person, made me realize that I really wanted this. It was my way of saying I can help people fix things, I can help people do things better. So that was my motivation then. My motivation now is seeing my products live. Um, I had a product, the one I mentioned earlier, when it went live, the feedback I got was amazing. And I know that said once said that she felt heard. And this application was for internal staff. But she came back to me to say she felt heard. She felt like she had a problem and we fixed it. And that there's that feeling when someone makes you realize that you fixed a major pain point in their life. Currently, my product is life and helping people. That's just the motivation. Plus, of course, money.
Oh, thank you so much. I like the honesty. Thank you so much, Miss Ifunaya. Um, so I wanted to ask too, how was product design, like the product design space, how was it before? How is it now? And what do you think it will be if it's, let's say, come 10 years? What do you think what do you think the product design space, how do you think it will be? How do you think it will look like in the future? Did you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. When I started out as a designer, then we had basically two tools, which were XD and Figma. They were Figma just came out and was breaking in and making magic, right? Then it was about designing a whole lot of things from scratch and doing this, and even then I didn't have the idea of finding an icon set. Instead, I'll have to try to make my own icon, which was, do not do that unless you have the skills to make an icon. Please do not do that. uh Back then I realized that it wasn't so new, but it was new enough that designers were valuable. Now, design is still valuable. What we are seeing is a saturated market. There are lots of designers, but there's still one thing that is missing from that market. You can make a beautiful UI, but can you make a very good UX? That is something that a whole lot of research, competition research, talking to your stakeholders, talking to your users, thinking outside the box would get you, right? Running the numbers. There's a whole lot of things you could do to make very good UX or to improve the UX of an existing product. Beautiful UI, a lot of people can do that. Now, for the future, sorry to say, fully focused on UI design, like if you're specialized on strictly UI design, you might want to start expanding your knowledge base. There's an app, a current app that can actually create UI designs from requests, just like a chat GPT kind of it. And all it does is create UI, editable UI in Figma, right? And if you're not there yet, if you don't understand UX, if you haven't expanded or done more than just UI, that is your job going away. I know some of us can relate to when clients come to you and they're like, is it not just that thing? Like from there, I got my idea of I draw squares for a living. Is it not just this small thing and you're charging this? Now they can say it to your face because all they have to do is go and find a bot that does it for them. But now, can you do the research? Can you do the interaction design? Can you find out the best way? Can you understand human psychology enough? Do you put into consideration the extreme cases, the lives of people that are being affected, how your application interacts with their everyday life? That is what would sell tomorrow. Beautiful UI, we already have bots that can do that. And please, right now, there's so many beautiful. I'm not against beautiful UI, but I'm just saying you do not want to sit on your hands. You want to go the extra mile. Okay.
Okay.
So I hope
Okay.
that answers the question.
Oh yes, you killed it. I hope we're all learning, and I hope we have questions for Miss Ifunaya. It will be wrong, oh my wrong, if you don't ask your question here. Don't bottle it up inside. Please, just you can just write it down somewhere so that you don't forget, and then when we like get to that particular time to ask questions, you'll be given the opportunity to ask your questions. So I would like to bring on stage, so to say, the community lead for Amazing Tech. So you can just take over. Mr. James, over to you.
Okay. So I'm going to answer your question um, after saying one thing, right? I don't know if we've all heard of the agile methodology, where it involves you doing um, carry delivering a product in bits and pieces. So you deliver the MVP first, then you add this other thing, and you have several different sprints. Why that is very important is because it allows you to go to market really quick while cooking up to show to your clients, to give your clients. Most of these challenges of having a design that is killing the developer usually stems from using the developer from head to toe, and you push and push and push. The moment the developer sees something like that, they're going to start swearing for you. Reason being that, yeah. So reason being that there's a whole lot, there's so much for them to work with all at once, and then there's a timeline to deliver all these wonderful things, and that brings me to empathy. Remember when I said during design courses and schools, you're told empathize with your user, and you're not told to empathize with every other person around you. You should empathize with your team, your teammates as well. Understand resource constraints. Now, that does not give room for laziness, but understanding design constraints, technological constraints will also help inform your design. Now, that aside, there's a developer with, and why I work with him on Power Apps project, and why I enjoy working with him is because when I design and give for development, whatever can't fly now, not that it won't fly, he will say, this will take this time to implement, right? And that would of course exceed our deadline. Let's push it to the next sprint. Hence my take on going agile. Very important. See, that way we're not compromising on the needs of the users. We are only taking what we can take at the moment and moving what we can't take at the moment to the next sprint. You're not now overwhelming the developer, giving him so much work that he's under pressure to deliver overnight. I don't know if that makes sense. Good. Okay, so AI tools. Um, I like things like ChatGPT. They are tools. They are supposed to help you make your work better. They're supposed to help you deliver faster. Now, can they pose a threat? Yes. Tools like these, like I said, we already have one for creating UIs. Tools like these can then make organizations rethink their stand on certain job roles. If you're in a company where your sole job role is to be just design UI, your job could be threatened. But what does that do for you? That gives you an opportunity to make quick UIs while improving on your UX skills. It can't replace a human entirely if that human keeps making themselves valuable. Right? Tomorrow we are going to hear of a tool that does UX, and so on. We already have tools that I place my design, they convert it straight. We can say front end developers can go home. But if you continuously try to make sure that you are constantly improving yourself, not sitting on the spot, not staying in, not just doing the UI, taking advantage of what these tools can do for you, you would go you would go far and wide, right? Your copy would be better. Obviously, we have ChatGPT. You would even compare different UIs quickly and decide on which works best and what works best and what doesn't work. While you have a whole lot of time to do the UX part, which involves research, which involves thinking through problems, which involves structuring um, a whole lot of other things, and of course, solving problems. I think I've repeated myself severally. But these are tools that we should embrace and don't sit on your hands. It's not easy to come up with a very nice UI. It takes time and it is stressful. But when you have a tool that can do it for you in 2 minutes, then you might want to look at how it can make your life better and how you can improve on yourself and take advantage of this tool.
Okay, thank you so much. In fact, this is I don't know. Supposed to pay. Seems like you're supposed to pay for the session because information that is being passed there is amazing, right? So, Ms. Ifunaya, I think I skipped back on one question, and I'd like to ask before, like, I ask um our audience to put forward their questions to you, and then you can answer. So, I'm asking for a friend or what is the first step to take if you want to go into product design, right? Am I supposed to know one particular thing before moving to the next one, or I can just start from any angle? I don't know if you get my question.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
hear
So you're
me?
saying like a step-by-step process to um, get going into product design. Is that your question?
Please, can you come again? I think I lost you for a moment.
Okay, so I'm just repeating your question. You're saying you're asking for a step-by-step
Okay.
process into going into product design.
Yes.
Okay.
Like what helped you, and what do you think can help that my friend?
So it's not a one size fits all. So how do I mean? Some people can learn better virtually. Some people can even do better with self-paced courses, whereas while others would have to go through intense training. The personal advice is that you have to know yourself, what works best for you. Then you have to weigh your reality with what works best for you. So, like, like for someone like me, as at the time I was trying to learn product design, I didn't I didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't even pay for a single course. I couldn't afford to pay for a single course. Instead, I went from free courses to reading books and books and books to attending so many webinars so that I'd learn. Right. For every Figma conference that was held, I made sure I attended it. For every Figma live event, I was I made sure I was present just so I could learn. I'd also watch live design tutorials on YouTube because obviously that I could only afford data, but I couldn't afford to pay for courses. What that did for me was slow down my progress because then I wasn't fast. I didn't have the expertise of boot camps that have been curated. packaged and offered to the public. And I didn't even have it. So knowing yourself, knowing your current reality would help you decide what is your current reality. Can you wait, let's start with yourself. Can you learn self-paced? Can you do you need someone to hold your hand through for it? Then can you afford it? If you can't afford it, by all means, find a very good paid boot camp to join or good paid course to join. Same with if you can't afford it, find scholarships, find books. You would have to do if you can't afford it, you have to do more manual work. Reach out to people, try on your own, learn on your own. The difference between you and that person that went through, okay? Yeah, I was about saying so. They're saying the difference between you and someone who has gone through a boot camp is that they have curated learning. So they're learning with a structure and they have guides. They usually have mentors. While, and same with courses, while you who is literally trying to get everything you can from the internet, you might not move as fast. But I can assure you, you will still get there. Okay. So to answer your first question, please do not just do it on your own. Even if you can't afford to pay for these things and you're going through free tutorials and free courses and free books, please join a community. Don't join one, join two or three communities. Be active in those communities. Ask questions, right? Follow up with events like these. And when you have to attend physical communities, interact with people. One of the mistakes I made while coming up was I'd go to an event. I would always show up to meetups, but by the time it's done, I'm out of the door. And I think I still have that habit. I had the opportunity to connect with people that have been in the space, ask direct questions, get their numbers, give them my work to help review. And I didn't do that because I was too busy with the moment I get what I came for, which is the talk or the session, I take my notes, take my jollof rice, and I'm out the door. That will not help you. You need to connect with people as much as possible. Same with spaces like this. When you meet people, talk to them, ask about specific questions. Don't come and say, so I've been trying to design and I've been struggling to design. You have to be specific with your question. What are you struggling at? Are you struggling with creating interactive components? Are you struggling with this? Are you struggling with that? Are you struggling with colors? What have you done to try and help yourself? Then when you're coming to these people to ask all these questions, you would have them be willing to help you, knowing that you've put in all this effort and then you've narrowed down your problem to two or three things. Instead of saying, I don't know anything about colors, you have Google. Okay. Then, please, what's your second question? Okay. So, first off, you're in Nigeria and they'll always ask you for experience. Hence, internships will help you. You have to come up with side projects that are interesting. Don't just do the regular sign up screen, e-commerce website is everywhere. Go extra. Think through the process so that when you're presenting your portfolio, it will show that you know how to think through a unique problem. There are so many fintech applications out there. There's so many this, there's so many that. What unique thing can you design for? What unique problem can you solve? Now, when you have all these, apply to internships. Use them because yes, there's a popular saying that they will use you, but please try and find paid internships. The paid ones are they're picky with the kind of people they take, and you get to work on live projects. If you're in a very good, if you're going through a very good internship, you work on live project. Also volunteer to startups. My first design work was at a startup I volunteered to. They just asked, we are looking for a designer to volunteer, and I signed up just like that. People, yeah, you're coming in free, but you're working on a life, in on a real world project. So when you do this, find online communities to join. Go out of your way with the problems you're trying to solve. Don't be generic. Make sure it's an actual problem and it's unique. Find good internships to join so you can work on live project and volunteer as much as you can. Volunteer to startups, volunteer to anywhere you can try to volunteer to. They might not even pick you even when you try, but put in the effort. And believe me, you would get in. You will get at least one. Sorry, what was the question? So he's asking what Illustrator does, as what kind of design it creates. Okay, is a vector.
Good evening, everyone.
This one you are calling
Good
direct.
evening,
Good
Rashid.
evening.
Good evening, sir. My name is Dinesh. Sorry, my guy. I don't help you. Follow you. Always follow
That,
you, drag. Yes.
no be so. You just dey make me the reason say na me she dey call abi who you dey call. But don't call. Abi na no wahala.
All right. What I was asking is that Adobe Illustrator. What design does it fall under? Is it under UX, UI, UX, or what? Or just normal design?
So Illustrator is a tool. It's mostly
Okay.
used for vector designs, but it can be used to design anything. Prior to XD, Figma, and the likes, people were using Illustrator to design for UI UX until XD decided to show us the way, and Figma followed suit. So Illustrator is a tool. It's not the it's a tool that gets you to do what you need to do, right? And it's mostly I'd advise you stick to vector designs. It's just for designing vector illustrations, if possible, or icons and the likes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Answering your questions, following someone in a follow me to design, probably tutorial as well. It's not it's not the core. The core is the process. The process is what gets you there. You can learn any tool. When I first got my job and I was told you're using XD. Well, I went YouTube tutorials. After watching several tutorials for about 3-4 hours, I started working with XD. Of course, it will be difficult, but because it's new and it's not exactly like Figma. When they transition to Figma, same thing, because I was using Figma for a very long time. I just needed to go and brush up, and I went to brush up on Figma. Tools are not should not be your major concern because there are tutorials to these tools everywhere. I needed to use Jita one time, and I spent the whole day on tutorials, and the next day I was designing with Jita. I was using Jita to do animations. So focus on the process. Tools can be learned, and there are a whole lot of resources on several tools. XD might maybe have a steep learning curve depending on the person, but it can still be learned. Okay.
Um, Thank you, Nanya, for sharing your knowledge, expertise, and your sorry. I'm saying that thank you very much for organizing this kind of event, and I really appreciate our guest Ifunanya for sharing her knowledge and area of expertise with us. And I really appreciate that fact. So, but my question is about you actually asked her the question, but she did not give me a satisfactory answer to the question, which is about the relationship between UI UX designers and developers. Sometimes the reason why I want to speak more on this particular question is that I feel like these US designers, they let me use the word. I mean to use the word. Sometimes I feel like they are being wicked to developers, right? You, you can just imagine somebody design something. It's easy to use a tool and draw that thing, and you expect the developer to code that thing. I don't understand. So I don't know. I feel like sometimes they are just being wicked, in as much as they are trying to also showcase their expertise. That yes, I'm authority in this, I'm best in this, so that they can get more clients. They should also consider the developers, which we are just coding like code, and you are expecting me to use code to draw that thing. I know to some extent it's achievable. How about new developers who are just coming in, the intern, those who are just learning? Maybe they are just employing a company as a junior developer, right? And then they are given a project to develop something that has been designed by an expert, experienced designer with those kind of interaction and a whole lot of that. You are frustrating the junior developer. So I wanted to emphasize, I wanted to clarify me the relationship between a designer and a developer. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to answer that question, but I call it a love-hate relationship. So I feel like I've been opportune to work with good developers. Am I still audible?
Go ahead.
Hello?
You can hear.
Okay,
Go ahead.
good. So I've been opportune to work with good developers and developers that have a sense of design, right? So when you say things like something you just drew, it feels like I might as well copy and paste it and drop it there just to make your life difficult. But when you understand what goes into the process of design, especially, have you the person asking this question? I would have loved to ask if you've done UI UX design. Is what usually why I say
I'm
developers should
a
understand design.
developer. I'm not a
Yeah,
UI
what
designer. I'm a developer. I'm not a
exactly? So so um I'd advise that you look into UI UX a little. Not that I'm not saying that the designs you've been experiencing may not be heartbreaking, but I'm just saying you should look into it a little. So now let me answer your question. I usually say empathy is key. I think I've repeated myself severally here. You have to, you even, the designer has to empathize with everybody on the team. So business and the like developers have empathy for your developers as long along working with time constraints. But on the other hand, you're a junior developer and you're working with a senior, let's say you're working with a senior designer. There is no room for you to ask your senior designer to take it easy on you, because I mean they probably used to all the other senior developers doing the work just like it's given to them, right? This is where the use of sprints come in. Like I said, I have a developer on Power Apps that will tell me that some things I have designed for, some features I have designed for, may not be able to go into this sprint because of how long it will take him to implement it. And I have, when it's something that he finds difficult to implement, he'd say, let him go and do his research and come back. Unless your designer hates you, they will not design something that will want you to suffer without a very good reason for that. Right? So on your own part, I'd advise the same way designers, the same like myself, I stay up, I try to learn every time, learn new ways to solve problems. You should also learn new ways to implement these solutions. And you should also learn to negotiate. There are some things that are nice to have in design, and there are some things that are need to have. So saying let's use a simple interaction on Twitter space, the like button, right? If you're designing an application and the interaction of the like button is what the designer has designed, and you know that first of all you do not even have the skills yet to deliver that. I'm using this simple one for people to understand. You don't have the skills yet to deliver that. And then you've gone to you know that there's a time allocated to this and you know you cannot deliver. You can negotiate with your designer. Can we have this in another sprint? The time frame allocated to this will not work. I'm not saying you should abandon it because it's going to help you become a better developer. If you keep hoping that I have a supervisor that when she gives me design work, I hardly turn her down because the kind of projects I have been opportune to work on are so interesting and have helped me grow. If you keep turning down something that is seemingly difficult because you're a junior developer and you think in your head that your designer just hates you, well, you will just actually remain a junior developer. So you want to talk to these people. You want to understand. I've had developers talk to me as to why this is not important, why we shouldn't go this route. And we've had to sit down and discuss and negotiate on how to deal with it. This is where your soft skills come in. Even as a developer, please get yourself soft skills. It is not, I know they'll tell you code till you fall and make all the money. Well, it can only take you far. Because when you are now in an organization, you will have to move from being the worker ant to being
Thank you very
the
much.
manager.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I've already gotten the answer you are trying to pass across. Sorry for cutting you. I already understand what you're trying to say. Well, let me just put this across like, okay, um, let's rewind the field now. Assuming you identify something about Twitter, I just want to ask all these good, I mean, best big performing companies like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, a whole lot of that of them. Looking at their US design, looking at it, is that do you think is some how will I put it? Do you think they are sophisticated that much before they are performing, before they are selling, or before their platform are being using them? Just look at this AI now. Very simple, and it's working. It's just all about the performance, the workability behind it. It doesn't have to be so. The appearance looks so sophisticated to show that okay, this people they know and we know say them. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is that that sometimes when this work is given to the designers,